Yeah, we're following up on that to see if we can clear the air for Dubai residents. That cautious optimism can be changed. And we have joining us, the same person who was mentioned, who shared the statement from the president, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Mr. Ajirin Gulali, just back from that meeting at the UAE. Joins us from our Abuja studio. Good to have you, Mr. Gulali. Good morning.
Good morning to you, my dear sister, and good morning to all of our viewers.
Yeah, so I don't know if you were able to catch a part, at least, of that report. Nigerians residents in Dubai are still, a bit uncertain about all of it. But you were there during the conversation with the president and the leadership of the UAE, so I'm sure you can give us what is sure at this time and what we could expect from this agreement and the lifting of ban of the ban on the visa.
Indeed, it is pertinent to note that in that report it was rightly and accurately captured, and I don't think I've seen it really reported that way anywhere else, which is that when the visa ban was established in the first place, there was no official announcement from the authorities of the UAE. I think that part has been lost in the conversation concerning the lifting of the ban with respect to the UAE's official position on that. But let me also say that there were a few things that were achieved by the visit of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the President of the United Arab Emirates. One was, of course, the full normalization and reset of bilateral relations between the two important countries. But moreover, we have seen a kind of efficiency and determination on the part of President Tinubu to ensure that we don't just settle for a reset to status quo, but that we look to deepen and enrich that relationship in the mutually beneficial interests of both nations, which is why large-scale investments are being negotiated at the level of cabinet members having negotiations right now to ensure that the finer details of all aspects of this comprehensive agreement struck between the two heads of state are put down on paper, signed and effected before we begin to get into the nitty-gritty publicly concerning the details of that agreement, which will cut across multiple sectors of the Nigerian economy. Yes, we understand that there is outsized interest in the topic of the visa ban and the removal of that ban. We understand the level of interest, but we also want to appreciate that, and we want Nigerians to appreciate that this is much more wide-ranging, much more impactful in terms of developing multiple sectors of the Nigerian economy, and much more I think impactful on the day-to-day operations of MSMEs across our beautiful country than what Nigerians can appreciate right now, with the details currently mostly being withheld. But very soon, as these negotiations are ongoing, just to essentially formalize what has already been agreed at the top levels of the topmost levels of authority between the two countries. Those details will come out, and I think at that point, the cautious optimism, as the report cited, can now turn into, by the grace of God, full-scale jubilation.
Yeah, I will certainly be looking forward to that, and we trust you to always share that. So another trip that the president made was the Indian one, and we had that rousing $14 billion investment promise coming from the private sector in India. Obviously, a lot of Nigerians have been happy about it, but again, there's a need for details and the need for timelines, because, I mean, we've had occasions where celebrations are given because of news items like this, but we don't really feel the impact or the implementation. Do we have timelines, the sectors? I know you've shared the sectors, but I mean, you could share it again here, and especially the timeline, so we know if we are missing out at any point in time.
Great question. And obviously, given the long decades worth of history of unimplemented projects and partnerships, it's normal for Nigerians to be curious about the question of implementation, which is why His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ever the pragmatist, a very practical person, says, look, we don't just want pledges from our investors. We want to know exactly what the encumbrances are between you making this pledge and you establishing that facility, that industry, that factory on the ground in the country, creating jobs for Nigerians, paying taxes to subnational governments, to the federal government. What is in your way? I want you to tell me. That was the president's position. So what he did was he sat one-on-one. I was privileged to be in the room as he sat one-on-one with many of these investors and essentially requested from them what their issues were, whether it be regulatory, whether it be fiscal, whether it be whatever it may have been. What is that encumbrance that I, as president, can now step in to personally intervene and liaise or at least create the contact between you and the relevant minister of defense, minister of trade and investment, minister of finance, whoever it is that we need to remove that encumbrance. They're going to be here in this room, and we're going to have this conversation so that you can hit the ground running, bring your money, because their money is ready. It's not, these are not, these investors, I want to be clear about this. These are not investors who are coming with briefcase companies. When I say briefcase companies, people who have registered a company somewhere and they make all sorts of promises about what they can and can't deliver. But when you look at their actual asset portfolio, you're not going to really see much there. We're talking about companies that have asset valuations to the tune of $5 billion and far beyond that. In fact, one of the companies that sat down with Mr. President had an asset valuation, total asset portfolio of over $100 billion US. These are the level of investors that Mr. President sat down with. So their issue is not about sourcing for funds. Their issue is about making sure that some of the environmental concerns within Nigeria is addressed with them directly with the personal intervention of the president. And he did that. So that goes to the issue of implementation. Because when you're sitting down with the president and he's telling you, okay, oh, this is your problem? Okay, done. Okay, this is your problem? Done. He's a businessman, the first president who is a businessman who speaks the language of investors, speaks the language of business people, knows where the shoe is pinching the foot, and is saying, look, we are going to ensure that we create the space for you to be successful, but also for the Nigerian economy and Nigerian MSMEs to be successful in collaboration with the industry that you're bringing into the country. So that really was a major part of how the president is going to ensure that these are implemented. Secondly, the president had also, in exchange for his intervention, he had secured the agreement of the various investors. And I'm going to go one by one in a moment to describe some of the investments. But he essentially discussed with them, ensured that as they've agreed in India now, he says within 30 days, I want each of you to meet me in Abuja. You will meet me in my office, and we will ensure that every stakeholder that needs to be at the table to ensure that your money immediately comes into the country and you begin construction on the establishment of your various industries and facilities, that begins within the next 30 to 45 days. The president spoke with urgency. He said, do not procrastinate. Tell me what your problems are. I will solve your problems. Bring your money and let's do business. And that is why the president is ensuring. That is how he's ensuring that these projects and these investments are truly made for the benefit of the Nigerian economy, for new jobs to be created, and for new tax revenues to be paid to the subnational and federal governments of Nigeria. So now, with that said, if I may, very quickly, what are the investments? One of them was from Indorama, a well-known petrochemical producer and fertilizer producer, cited in my own local government of LMA local government area of River State. In effect, what they said was they went to the president and they said, sir, we're having this problem, this bottleneck, this encumbrance. The president personally called the NNPCLG CEO Malamele Kyari into his office and said, Mele, I'm giving you 21 days to solve this problem. No excuses. Within 14 days, that bottleneck that was confronting a major new investment from Indorama was crushed, it was dealt with, it was resolved. As a result of that, Indorama has now pledged a nearly $8 billion US dollar investment to expand their petrochemical and fertilizer production facility within the country. We separately, from the $8 billion from Indorama, we got $3 billion from Naveen Jindal, the chairman of Jindal Steel and Power Company Limited, to establish a new steel production facility in the country that is going to help us, in addition to what we're doing with Ajeokuta, help us to provide locally produced steel to the extent that we can fulfill our domestic requirements that will actually support the industrialization and support, the steel required by several Nigerian MSMEs and medium and large scale industries so that we can really take, our economic development to the next level. The third one is in energy. The president was able to strike an agreement with Skipper Seal Power Company Limited for a $1.6 billion agreement that will see to the establishment of 20 100 megawatt solar powered power plants across states of northern Nigeria, across I believe all states of northern Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken, which is going to have massive impact when you talk about industrialization across the country, when you talk about the ability to power industry, the ability to add to that quantum of power generation in the country to further allow for industries to take off nationwide. These are just some of the investments. I haven't even gotten into defense.
Yeah, well, very interesting, and thank you for stopping there. But I think what really stands out from all you have said, of course, those sectors are very important that drive industrialization and economic productivity. But I mean, that timeline of between 30 and 45 days, at least, keeps Nigerians looking out to say, okay, something will begin at least within this period. And we thank you so much for providing that information. I know you just got back, you need to catch some rest. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning, Mr. Gilali.
Thank you very much. There's no rest for the weary. I'm going to the State House now. Have a nice day.
You too.